Okay, let's get to this question. Your son finally received a diagnosis of autism through an independent education evaluation after years of bad evaluations and harassment. We had his IEP today, and they do not want to check the box for autism. They want to check specific learning disability, which he does not have. Why? Is it to get out of giving him services or to cover themselves for the years he missed? And the answer on your last question is who knows? There could be a myriad of reasons or motives as to why they don't want to check the box for autism. And you're going to have many schools that will give you the song and dance that it doesn't matter what the child's exceptionality is, because the child is entitled to the full litany and consideration of services and accommodations. Um, and so therefore, it doesn't matter whether it's specific learning disability or autism, they need to service the child and they need to service the disabilities, not necessarily exceptionality. That's in theory, that's not incorrect. Um, there's also, depending on the state, other financial motives for some schools, uh, from my understanding, will be distributed more money depending on what box a child has. Um, there's also in some states there's been sort of underground memos, put out to where they don't want schools to over-identify autism. Okay, so that could be another motive. The other one is that I don't know if there's other motives within the state you live in. I don't know where you live, to where they have additional access to resources, state resources, let's say for reading intervention, things of that nature. There could be a bunch of motivations that you have absolutely no clue, that has nothing to do with your child. It's more of backdoor motivations in other government agencies and funding mechanisms. It still doesn't matter, though, at the end of the day. No. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because theoretically, just like you had said in the beginning, if your child has an IEP, then they have a responsibility, being that they have now a full evaluation specifying his disability and also making the recommendations for those needs. So even if, and they can't put him under a specific learning disability unless he met the minimum state requirements for that. So even though I get what you're saying, well, he doesn't have a specific learning disability, well, he has autism. And so as a component of autism, he very well could have specific learning disabilities. And I'm going to imagine likely in reading in the comprehension aspects, or math in the comprehension aspects, because that tends to be what I see very frequently in my cases involving kids on the spectrum, is that we have the language deficits, and then we have the components for comprehension, which are visualization. Well, both of them need to be there in order for the comprehension to move forward. So I'm talking about phonemic awareness, fluency, things of that nature, and that holds true with the math language. Um, those components are all there. So if your child has natural deficits in those areas related to the autism, then yes, it's going to carry over and also manifest as a specific learning disability. Uh, and so I do have cases like that, and I have them all the time. Is that something that I necessarily fight over? It sort of depends. But if the child already has an IEP, then why? My goal, my entire goal, is to make sure that the services that are in the IEP are there so that we're addressing the child per the child's disability and not their exceptionality, because there's a difference. Your child qualified under this, but your child has these disabilities. And so therefore, under these disabilities, this is what the peer-reviewed scientific approach for that disability is. Don't care about the exceptionality. That was just the proof that the state needed that the child needs an IEP. What is the child's disability? And then based upon that disability, what was the recommendations and what are the reasonable recommendations. What's the peer-reviewed, scientifically proven strategies, approaches, therapies in order for my child to make progress? That is what needs to be added into the IEP with regards to accommodations, supplemental aids and services, goals, the whole litany. Okay? So if that includes ABA therapy, there you go. ABA strategies, there you go. Attacking the language deficits, including pragmatics, which is social communication, there you go. All of those things can be serviced because of your child's disability, and also applies to their exceptionality, quite frankly. But just don't forget that what your goal is to make sure that your child's serviced in all three of their main educational performance areas, and that's academics, social emotional development, and communication. Now, depending on the age of your child, if your child's 9th grade or 14 years old, then you need to add transition services. So that's 4 educational performance areas where you would be developing goals and services, accommodations and supplemental aids and services, academics, communication, social emotional learning, and if your child is at the transition age, transition services. Depending on the severity or the needs of your child, it could be functional skills. And I'm talking toileting, brushing your teeth, those kind of things. These are all educational performance areas, but the main 3 are the ones that I'm going to say them again: academics, communication, social emotional learning. So that doesn't necessarily need an exceptionality. That's where we look at the child's disability, we look at their deficits, we look at their needs based upon those 3 educational performance areas. That's why he has an IEP. Those are all areas of specialized instruction, and that would be the area for developing goals and services and accommodations and supplemental aids and services.